Truthseekers is a viewer-supported show. Wonderful people like you who enjoy this show send pledges in the form of super chats, super stickers, super thanks, PayPal or Cash App. Instructions for how to help are in the description. You can also join our Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month you can get extra content. Patreon supporters get a backstage pass, early access to all our production videos before they are distributed publicly, Stephen Campion's music, private writings, a monthly show journal, and more. You can also become a YouTube channel member for $5 a month. A YouTube membership includes all of the Patreon benefits, plus a special members badge, priority reply to video comments, and the live chat, plus a monthly members only video. We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, for supporting Truthseekers. Thank you for your generosity and support. Truthseekers is a viewer-supported show. Now there's a great way to support these broadcasts and show your support. Please be sure and check out our merchandise store. Links to our 2 merchandise online stores are in the links to this video or podcast. The Amazon storefront ships super quickly in the United States, Great Britain, and in many more places. Amazon may not ship to your country or location. If that's the case, hit our second merchandise link in the description and visit our Redbubble storefront. Merchandise from our Redbubble storefront ships worldwide, but may take longer than Amazon. We've got a great deal of super high quality merchandise for you to choose from, including t-shirts, phone cases, sweatshirts, and even pillows. The feedback from our products have been overwhelmingly great. Quality products and fast shipping. People all over the world are buying some merchandise and showing their support of the show. Praise the cash! Praise the cash! Praise the cash! We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, who are buying some merchandise and helping us to continue this journey. Thanks for being here. This is Truthseekers with your host, Stephen Campion. Please rate, like and comment on our videos or podcasts. If you are listening to an audio podcast, please rate us 5 stars to help us rise in the search rankings. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, comment and subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to an audio podcast, we love and appreciate you listeners, but you are missing the live tapings. All our shows are recorded live with video feed. We'd love you to come be a part of our live broadcasts and tapings for the podcast. Head on over to YouTube, click the search tool, the little magnifying glass, put Truthseekers, one word in the search bar, and hit enter. You'll see a strange and mysterious guy with sunglasses. That means you found the channel. Go there, smash the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to receive up-to-date info on our YouTube channel. We welcome you to be a part of our live taping and our chat room during the live broadcasts. Seek the truth. Speak the truth. This is Truthseekers. Truthseekers.
Oh, sorry about that. And we are live. So, tonight, my friends, I thought I would talk about one of my all time favorite strange cases, an incredible rabbit hole I found in, I don't know, somewhere in the 90s. And I believe it was the excellent researcher Jim Mars who brought this case to my attention. And it's a crazy story. It's a story about a UFO crash that happened in a sleepy, tiny little town called Aurora, Texas. It happened in 1897. One of the reasons I always love this case is because 1897 was before the Wright brothers took their first powered flight. It was before airplanes and anything in the sky was very common. So people around that time, 1895, 1896, began reporting seeing huge, strange metal airships flying in the sky, reported first in California and later in Texas. And here we have this case where we're told a flying saucer must have had some sort of trouble or malfunction and began to operate erratically and came crashing down in a judge's farm field. This is an incredible story. It's always been one of my favorites. And I thought we would open tonight actually with my inspiration for why I love this case so much, and that is the excellent researcher Jim Marsh. You know, I heard somebody speaking recently, I think it was C.W. Channer, who said that not a lot of people were talking about Jim Marrs. And really, if you want to go down some strange rabbit holes from JFK conspiracies to ancient aliens to UFOs and a government cover-up, Jim Marrs' books are excellent. He passed away not long ago, so I want to say rest in peace, Mr. Marrs. And I think that he would like that I would actually prefer to let him tell you some of this incredible story, because it's not just about a UFO crash. That's just the beginning. The crazier part of the story is that there was reportedly a single non-human occupant or pilot of this incredible UFO. So I think we're going to, well, first let me go to the live chat. I see Geoff and Dan Hogan. Shout out to Dan Hogan. see. And BG's is here, and Dreamsea is here. Okay, so let's see if we can't get to the share screen that I have. And I want to apologize. The last episode, I kind of learned this software and thought, oh yeah, this will work. And then I forgot there's a checkbox to show the audio. So first, we're going to go to hear Jim Mars tell really the greater part of this story. It's not a very long story. So this will be, I think it's like 7 or 8 minutes where he's telling the story here. And let me see if we can't get that on screen here, because I think he just does a great job of telling the story. I always loved listening to Jim Mars tell some of these stories. So we're going to go Chrome tab. Okay, here we go.
Flying saucers, unidentified flying objects, UFO. They're just a fact of modern life. In fact, if you check with friends or family members, chances are you'll find someone with a UFO story. Everyone's heard of the famous crash at Roswell in 1947. Some people know about the Foo Fighters during World War II. But there's a case that goes back far beyond that, even before the Wright brothers ever flew a heavier-than-air craft. It happened in Aurora, Texas in 1897. April the 17th, 1897, dawned clear and cool in North Texas, when out of the south came a large silver cigar-shaped object dropping lower and lower as it approached the small hamlet of Aurora, located less than 20 miles northwest of Fort Worth. Swooping low over Aurora, the airship moved north toward the home of Judge J.S. Proctor, which was perched atop a flat Caliche hill. There it struck a windmill and exploded, scattering debris and, by reports, one body. Or did it? Despite straight-faced coverage in the local newspapers at the time, the Aurora UFO crash has continued to generate controversy even till today. Here's what I know about it. In the spring of 1973, Bill Case was aviation writer for the now-defunct Dallas Times-Herald. He wrote a series of articles about the Aurora crash after being told the story by Hayden Hughes of the International UFO Bureau. Case immediately looked up the April 19th, 1897 article in his newspaper's microfilm library. The story stated, about 6 o'clock this morning, the early risers of Aurora were astonished at the sudden appearance of the airship which had been sailing throughout the country. It was traveling due north and much nearer to the earth than before. Evidently, some of the machinery was out of order, for it was making a speed of only 10 or 12 miles an hour and gradually settling towards the earth. It sailed over the public north part of town, collided with the tower of Judge Proctor's windmill, and went to pieces with a terrific explosion, scattering debris over several acres of ground, wrecking the windmill and water tank, and destroying the judge's flower garden. The pilot of the ship is supposed to have been the only one on board, and while his remains are badly disfigured, enough of the original has been picked up to show that he was not an inhabitant of this world. Mr. T.J. Weems, the U.S. Signal Service officer at this place and an authority on astronomy, gives it his opinion that he was a native of the planet Mars. Papers found on his person, evidently the records of his travels, are written in some unknown hieroglyphics and cannot be deciphered. This ship is too badly wrecked to form any conclusion as to its construction or motive power. It was built of an unknown metal, resembling somewhat a mixture of aluminum and silver, and it must have weighed several tons. The town today is full of people who are viewing the wreckage, gathering specimens of the strange metal from the debris. The pilot's funeral will take place at noon tomorrow. Signed, E.E. Hayden. Now, a similar story was published in the Fort Worth Register, but in this account there was no mention of the hieroglyphics, and as to the pilot, it simply stated, quote, "The pilot, who was not an inhabitant of this world, was given Christian burial in the Aurora Cemetery," end quote. Now, at this time, I was aviation aerospace writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram back in 1973, and I decided to follow the Aurora story. Partly because the Times-Herald was considered the competition, and partly because the story intrigued me. Bill told me he had spoken to some of the old-timers in Aurora and was convinced that something had indeed occurred there in 1897. I arranged to meet Case at the Aurora Cemetery, where he showed me what he said was the airship's pilot's grave. It was located in the south portion of the picturesque cemetery, which overlooks the rolling Wise County countryside. The grave was near a large live oak tree and was not full size. It was obviously the grave of a child or a very small man. At the head of the grave was a crude rock headstone. It appeared that half of the marker had broken off and was missing. On the remaining half was etched a design which resembled a large V lying on one side. Inside the V shape were 3 small circles. The entire design indeed resembled one end of a saucer-shaped structure, and the small circles appeared to be portholes. I was acquainted with some of the old cemeteries in the area, and many containing the graves of early settlers. And the Maltese cross markers of Confederate soldiers. This was indeed a very strange and intriguing marker. Bill told me he had used a metal detector on the grave site, and it indicated at least 3 large pieces of metal in the grave. One near the headstone, and the other 2 near the center of the grave. He was excited over this find and believed that if the pieces of metal could be exhumed, they might provide the proof of what actually occurred in 1897. I too was impressed with the idea of obtaining objective proof of what, until then, I considered just an old-timer's tall tale. While Case and UFO researchers set out to find someone to analyze whatever might be retrieved from the grave, I began researching the 1897 period, trying to put the Aurora story in perspective. What I discovered was astounding.
Well, folks, so so I think it was about 1973 that some UFO researchers actually tried to obtain permission to exhume the body. But two things. There's this historical society that takes care of the cemetery who would not allow any digging whatsoever. And the second thing is that it's actually Texas law that you cannot dig up any gravesite without permission from the next of kin. And so I am assuming it would be a little hard to get the next of kin of an alien to give permission to dig his body up. This is why the gravesite has never ever been exhumed. Some people have said that this entire story was just made up for tourists' dollars, that the town was dying, they needed something, so this story was just made up. However, many UFO researchers, before they died, spoke to firsthand witnesses that saw either the crash or the creature or both. And some of this has been documented in several books, among which Jim Marrs did some writing on this and did many lectures and presentations, as well as this documentary that we just saw a piece of. And by the way, I wanted to say fair use, fair use, fair use. We're going to be discussing this case. And I wouldn't say that I was like friends with Jim Marrs, but I knew him sort of as an acquaintance. And I asked him several times before to source him, to use some of his research and work. And he said, use whatever you want, kid. Just make sure you put my name on it. So we all know that was Jim Marrs. May he rest in peace. Great researcher, great writer, and the person that I first learned this story from. So I thought to get some additional perspective, we're going to bring in our guest tonight, who unfortunately can just call in. He can't be on video, but that's okay. We have this ragtag call-in system here. I've never tried to call a guest, but we're going to do that. And our guest tonight is William Pullen, who is a UFO researcher. And he's actually in all of these Texas UFO Facebook groups. So he put this out for us tonight. We're going to take just a very short break while I try to get him on the phone. Hopefully that's going to work out okay. Let's see here. Okay. We're going to take a short break so I can get our guest, William Pullen, on the line. Please stand by. Okay, friends, we're trying to call him now. 1 second here.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Pullen.
How are you, man?
How you doing, William? You are live on Truthseekers on our new call-in line. And listen,
How are you, man?
I don't know if you've been following along, but I figured if you were on the phone, I wasn't sure that you'd be able to hear it. So I played this sort of introduction to this Aurora UFO crash. And that was really Jim Marrs, a part of his documentary, the very beginning of it, where he tells sort of the story of the crash and what happened with this alien body and how the townspeople gave it a Christian burial and how it was reportedly buried in this cemetery. He mentioned the headstone in that piece, and I'm pretty sure when he made that documentary, the original headstone was still there, but somebody stole it, and there's actually a reward was offered for its safe return, and it's never come back. So now they have some other kind of rock there, and a cross and a sign that says alien here. I wanted to get some perspective from an actual UFO researcher. A lot of people know that Mr. Pullen is well respected to be sort of no nonsense, no fairy tales researcher. What do you think of the story?
I've tried to research it and links several times, and I keep coming up with hoax. I get some pushback in the community for my position, but I just don't find enough there to really grab a hold of the story. If there was some documentation, if there was some level of physical evidence of just a little more than what we have. Right now we just have stories. So, and that's where I'm at this point. But you and I both know that, the evidence and data we have for these cases does change over time. So if something new came up down the road, I would certainly re-examine the case. I guess the biggest red flag for me, beyond no physical evidence, is that there were multiple newspapers in Wise County. Wise County is where Aurora, Texas is located.
Yeah, I noticed that too. So they didn't report the story. And it seems like that would be a pretty big story. And the original story was not by an actual newspaper writer. It was by like somebody local in the town that was a rancher, I believe, and he sent the story into the newspaper, and they liked what he wrote, and they printed it. It wasn't front page news. It was on like page 5, but still, it wasn't like a newspaper reporter that did the story or interviewed anybody. It was just the word of one person from the town, and that's a little weak to me.
Yeah, it was Judge Proctor.
Oh, Judge Proctor is where it was supposed to crash.
Yeah. And then the individual that wrote the story in the Dallas Morning News was a stringer. Which is not really a reporter per se. I mean, he is in a way, but he got the story from Proctor, Wrangler. But he didn't appear in any other newspapers. Just had one.
Yeah,
I would think that, if a UFO crashes on a farm, I would think multiple newspapers would want to cover that, but only one did. So that's kind of a red flag for me.
Sure. And what I also thought was, like years later, people said that the story couldn't be true because there was no windmill on Judge Proctor's property. But years later, the guys from UFO Hunters went out there and they found the foundation of the windmill at the well site, which is a crazy part of the story. So they sort of verified, at least he had a windmill. We don't know if an alien spaceship crash landed in it, but we know that he did at one point. There was a windmill there.
Yeah, that's one of the parts of the story that's so. It's difficult to attack these cases from a research standpoint. We have stories going back and forth. You're right. They did confirm there was a windmill on the property, that's confirmed now. The trouble was that story kind of went back and forth in the decades prior to that, so it makes it difficult to research. But it's good that they went out there and confirmed that. So that part of the story we have down pat. Was the windmill destroyed by a UFO? I don't know. If we're able to find some anomalous metal somewhere on the property, down the well, in a tree somewhere.
Yeah, and the UFO Hunters program, they to their credit, they went down in that well in like a hazmat suit to try to find metal, and all they found was like a snake. So that was a huge disappointment. It was like Al Capone's vault. I remember watching that episode going, oh man, they're gonna find this alien metal. Because that's another strange part of the story, isn't it? That people said that people threw the debris from the alien spacecraft down into a well, which doesn't make any sense because even country simple people know you don't throw metal down into a well that you drink from. And years later, a guy got like a disfiguring sort of disease that he said was from drinking the bad well water that was contaminated. And the alien people ran with that and said, yeah, look, he's got some kind of alien virus because his hands were all gnarly and scarred.
Or all that. Yeah.
Somebody later said, no, that was just very bad rheumatoid arthritis.
It's not common to even think, okay, UFO crashes on a windmill. One, you're not going to throw that metal down, like you said. You're not going to throw it down a well. People drink out of it. Two, it's a strange aircraft. You wouldn't throw the debris away. You would save it. You would hide it. You would do something with it. You wouldn't just throw it away. So that is a troubling part of the case about that. And you're right. a gentleman that I think he was a resident of the area. He had some lesions going on his hands. People made the connection and said it was some alien virus. It was some condition caused by contact with this alien technology. That wasn't borne out, but that was a disappointment. They were hoping to find something down there. And I don't had up here the gentleman that went down the well. He encountered that snake. He was not very happy.
We have a comment. We have a comment from the live chat. Oh, Bill, I'm sorry, Bill. We had a comment from the live chat. BG's makes a good point. She says, unless it was an abandoned well, then maybe they would throw it down there. I don't know if they're just. But and then the other reports that a lot of people took pieces of this thing like souvenirs. I would think after all this time, somebody would come forward with pieces of that debris and that wreckage, you know?
True, you would think so. And that's an outstanding comment. You're right. If it was an abandoned well, then that's a little more reasonable. If it was a functioning well, then people obviously would throw metal down it. But yeah, that's yet to be determined. Yeah, that's a good point. If that well was non-functional and wasn't used back in April of 1897, then people throwing metal down that well would be a little more reasonable as opposed to a well they were drinking from. So that's a great comment. Yeah, outstanding.
Yeah, and the other thing that UFO Hunters show did is those guys. Yeah, my lights are squeaking. I gotta oil them out of mine. Those guys from UFO Hunters ran some ground penetrating radar, which proved there's something at this purported gravesite. They couldn't dig, but they ran the ground penetrating radar and they found there's something there, but it could be the body of a child or, just a regular human that was buried there. We don't have any definitive proof. And I just wanted to mention, William, I sent a letter to the Historical Society and the mayor of that town requesting that he give my show Truthseekers permission to go there and dig. And if they have not replied, and it's been a month, so I've heard they just don't reply. If they say yes, I'll be the first person to get on an airplane with a shovel in my bag to go find proof that an alien really is buried there. Because this is tantalizing. The greatest question ever could be answered if they let us dig.
There's claims that there's an extraterrestrial body buried at the cemetery. Well, then,
yeah, let us dig.
Into the body, examine it, and it clearly, if it's anomalous and non-terrestrial, that proves the case. But that's yet to happen, and it seems like it's such a simple thing to do. You're right. Technology shows that there's something down there. It could be a body, it could be a small child, it could be a large dog, it could be any of the number of things. We don't know if it's alien. We don't know unless we dig it up. So it's a fairly simple step, but I wish they would. Any kind of response would be good, but that's interesting they haven't responded at all. So yeah, that would be an outstanding way to attack this, just a dig.
Well, I've heard that UFO Hunters really pushed to get permission to dig, and they were denied, and they've got a bunch of money behind them. Yeah. And it's the History Channel, which is a little more, well, I was going to say credible, but not really. But they have a lot of money. Yeah, but they got a lot of money and fame behind them. So if they request and they get denied, I'm not hopeful, friends, that they're going to let me go down there with a shovel. But I guarantee you, if they say yes, I'll be on a plane tomorrow with a shovel. I got one of those spades that folds. I could put it right in my carry-on luggage, man. I'll be down there digging for aliens, bro.
Good man. Yeah, there's. I'm sure you've seen it. There's that. It's a very grainy black and white photograph. I think it was taken in the early '70s, and it shows a gravestone there.
Yeah.
And at some point, someone stole it, like you said. So.
Yeah, William, I have pictures of that. I'm gonna share screen. So go ahead while I try to find it.
Yeah.
About the gravestone, you were talking about the gravestone.
Yeah. It looked like this a small, tiny thing, maybe not even a foot tall. It really looked like it was a glorified rock stuck to the ground. But that was stated that was the gravestone. But I think the picture shows it looks to be a young man, blonde-haired, standing about 10, 15 feet away from it, as if to give it perspective or something to judge its size. But it's very grainy, and it's from 72, 73. So evidently not long after that, the stone was stolen.
Yeah, we're looking at it.
To the legend, it adds to the mystery. So
yeah, we're looking at a picture of the original stone right now, and then I could show they just put some kind of weird stone, like a boulder that they dropped for the tourists, and this thing that says it's like this is where the alien is buried, which I thought was kind of hokey for them to do, but okay, like.
I agree with you. Very much so. Yeah.
But apparently, like hundreds and hundreds of people visit that gravesite every year to sort of pay their respects to the alien, or
That doesn't surprise you one bit. Of course, I can see that. Yeah, I mean, it's there are a few stories in the UFO literature that, regardless of whether they pan out or not, whether they're extraterrestrial or explained or hoaxes or what have you, they retain the legendary status. And Aurora, Texas is certainly one of those. So it doesn't surprise you one bit that people visit that in droves to pay their respects to the alien buried under there. So, or the alleged alien. So that's surprising.
yeah. Now we're looking at a picture. Now we're looking at a picture of what's actually there, which is a big boulder, and it looks like they did it with like a Sharpie. It says alien here, and it's got an arrow, and there's like a cross with some flowers on it, I guess, for the alien. So that's what's there now that they replaced the former headstone with, which I think is kind of hokey, but okay. But hundreds of people every year visit that place, so I think that's interesting, right?
It is. Here in Texas, it's a huge deal. I mean, I live in San Antonio, which is about 5 or 6 hours south of Aurora, and the story is legendary throughout the entire state. Whether you live in Lubbock or San Antonio or Dallas or Houston or wherever, if you're somewhat knowledgeable about UFOs, you've heard of this case.
Yes.
And despite the I guess the perceived lack of evidence, really definitive evidence we can really examine. Beyond that, it's legendary, and it's got a life of its own. I recall there was a conference there, I think, a few years ago. It was a small meeting group, but there was an event held there around the time of the crash, or the alleged crash. So it's a very popular story that still has legs. So.
Yeah, and we had a comment from Bee Gees again in the live chat, and she said, "I thought there were several attempts to dig it up. The gravestone was moved to put people off the scent of where the body could be." Yeah, one of the town historians in another documentary I saw said that they moved the body, but he didn't know where it was moved to. And that's kind of part of what leads me to believe it could be a hoax too, because that's convenient, It's like Michael Horn with the Billy Myers story and that laser gun. Like, show me the laser gun. Well, the aliens only lent it to him, and then they took it back. So I had a laser gun, but I can't show it to you. So these people in this town are like, we had an alien body buried here, but we can't show it to you, and we can't tell you where we moved it, So we just don't know.
Well, it allows the legend to continue. The story is perpetuated by that. I've examined some research from Stan Friedman, Kevin Randall, and it was a researcher that was affiliated with the Center for UFO Studies. He looked into this. He was asked by Alan Hynek to look into this case, and all three of those researchers could not find a single historian in one county that felt this event was true.
Yeah, and then we have Reemsey actually. Reemsey asks, why don't they just do one of those sonar things to see if an alien is laying down there? And actually, Reemsey, they did. UFO Hunters, if you look up the UFO Hunters episode on this case, they used ground penetrating radar. They couldn't prove it was an alien, but there's something buried down there. And that's pretty amazing. They didn't find anything in the well, but they found that there's something buried at the apparently first reported gravesite that Jim Mars identified as the original gravesite. So there's something buried there. Could be rocks. I mean, there's just no proof. No, we could easily solve this by exhuming the body or whatever's there. I mean, the original story mentioned above and beyond the metal fragments of the records,
mentioned that there was documentation recovered with the body in some strange writing. Where did that go?
Yeah, it is kind of strange to me that the tombstone, the original marker stone, disappeared, and it had some people say it had some kind of a flying saucer on it. And we showed the picture, it looks like some kind of flying craft. And why would they do that in 1897? But, you know, it could all be part of an elaborate hoax to get some publicity for a dying town and get some tourists. It sure worked, because there are tourists all over that town every year looking for the alien body or looking for the alien graveyard.
You know, it's that idea is thrown around that, you know, Aurora wanted to grab onto a story and reap some, you know, financial benefit from it. You know, like what, I mean, Roswell certainly benefits from the event after 47.
Yeah, absolutely.
Socorro, you know, the Socorro, the town of Socorro didn't really benefit from that Atlanta case. And Aurora, Texas, same thing. They never really benefited from this legend, per se. So, oh.
Sure thing. Well, you know, I didn't want to keep you too long. I just wanted to get your perspective on this, because I kind of trust your judgment when it comes to these things. And I'm kind of on the same page as you, but I'd still really love to believe that this story was true. It's in that great basket of, like, what if, though? It's so tantalizing that proof of alien life and visitation of Earth by alien life could be buried in some tiny little town, but we can't get to it. It's tantalizing.
And I'm with you. You know, I mean, professionally, I think it's a hoax. But personally, I would love to find information. It's a fascinating story. The idea that a non-terrestrial, organic, biological creature is buried in a Texas town.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fascinating. I mean, that's
well, William, if I get permission, you could get a plane ticket with me and bring a shovel and a pickaxe. You look like you'd be better at digging a grave than me. You know, you're like a little bigger. You know. I don't know. It'd take me a while, so I'd be fine with some help. We'll go dig up this alien grave and we'll live stream it like Al Capone's vault, though. You know, like.
Oh yeah, remember that special like
yeah, just broadcast whatever we find down there.
Yeah.
Open up.
You let me know.
All right. Well, listen, I want to thank you for joining me. You're only my second guest here, and hopefully, maybe next time you can come on webcam with us.
Okay, excellent.
All right, you have a good night, Mr. Pullen. I'll be in touch with you if I get permission to dig. Get your shovels ready.
I'm ready.
All right. Good night, Bill. Bye-bye. All right, so that was our UFO expert, researcher, lecturer, guest, William Pullen. And William Pullen looks into everything about this. Sometimes when I'm not sure about a certain subject, I call him and say, what do you think of this one? And we talk about it. We didn't actually pre-anything this. I just told him I'm going to do the show on Aurora crash. And he said, oh, that's a great story, you know. And I said, don't tell me anything. I want to see, you know, you could just come on the show and tell me what you think. And honestly, time is so short lately that I am going to be doing a lot of things like that, like talking to friends that I really enjoy talking to. And I'm going to force them to come on my show so that I can, you know, catch up with some old friends, hopefully, and good friends that I don't get a chance to talk too much. And we're going to go to the live chat, and I want to ask, what do you guys think? Is this a true story, or is it a hoax generated to save a dying town with tourism dollars? I will say that if it was a hoax designed to do that, it didn't work really well. I mean, it worked. They got tourists out of it, but it wasn't enough to like save a dying town. And it's just a little ranch town. Out Mine says, very cool. And Philip Blair, Michael Horn is Billy Meyer's spokesman. Yes, he is, Philip Blair. And we did quite a bunch of shows on the Midnight Hour, my previous show with Michael Horn as guest. And I just wanted to announce, I don't know if I want this to happen, but I do want to announce that Michael Horn wants to come on this new show so that I have an opportunity to apologize to him, because Michael Horn is now claiming that Billy Meyer predicted all of this craziness that's going on in 2020, and he did it 10 or 20 years ago. We all know how I feel about the Billy Meyer case. I think it's ridiculous, trash can lids and nonsense. And but you know, Michael Horn, if he really wants to come on here, I will let him come on the new show, and he can try to explain to me how Billy Meyer predicted this stuff 20 years ago. I'm probably going to be unconvinced. And no, I'm not going to, I'm sorry, Michael Horn, I'm not going to apologize for anything that happened previously. Michael Horn was supposed to come on the Midnight Hour show and debate Cal Korff, and he backed out, and there was this big drama thing, and then he went on this Twitter rant, and, you know, I don't know, he went nuts. So I'm not sure, you know, I even made an episode on the Midnight Hour show that was like getting off the Billy Meyer crazy train. And, you know, I got off, so I'm not sure I want to let him back into my life and what kind of drama that's going to be. And I want to apologize because these, my chair is different today, and it's usually higher, so I'm like peeking over your comments. Brandon Young says he has nowhere else to go. Yeah, that might be true. And Reamsey, not a hoax. It knocked over a windmill. Normal people saw it. The mayor said it was real. It was 100 years ago, and people did not make up UFO stories at the time. I think it's a true story. Reamsey, I think it may be a true story. There's at least some evidence, and there was some witnesses. And BGs. Brandon Young, I think it was an airship. That's a possibility. It very well could have been an early airship or Zeppelin or helium balloon even, or hot air balloon. There was no airplanes at the time. There was no satellites. There was no drones. But there was still kites and balloons, and certainly there was Zeppelins, and airships were becoming very, very popular. So that could be one explanation, but it doesn't explain a little pilot. Was it a judge or a mayor? Super V Fun Cat. Actually, the original story was told by the person whose property this crashed into, and that was Judge Proctor. Later, though, I believe the mayor of the town was interviewed by someone who said that he believed the story was true. And we have a little debate here between Brandon Young and Reamsey. Reamsey says Brandon Young, could a Zeppelin knock over a windmill? I guess a rigid airship could, maybe. Yeah, it could, because airships had the big, a lot more like a lot more. The way modern blimps work is there's this huge balloon and this little tiny thing underneath that is the cockpit, and that's pretty much it. But a Zeppelin is different in that there was like inside the actual inflated part was rooms and things like that, and these observation decks, and they were huge. And that, I think that could knock over a windmill. I mean, it depends how sturdy the windmill was, but yeah, I think it could. And folks, I don't know that anybody wants to call in live, but we're going to take a very short break here. And we're going to play the live call-in number. We're going to play this bumper. So if anybody does want to call in and comment, you can comment on this case. You can ask me about upcoming shows, or you can tell your own story of the paranormal or the strange, whatever you want to do. And we're going to open our lines. We'll be right back, folks, with open phone lines. Anybody can call in. You can talk about this or any other subject. Here we go. And we are back, and we have a call on the line. Hold on one second. Yeah. Hello, this is Steven, and you're live on Truthseekers. Who are you, and where are you calling from?
This is Jeffrey.
Geoff. Is this Geoff?
Yeah,
Jeff.
it sure is.
Oh, nice to talk to you.
Yeah, you too. I wanted to call in on a different show.
Yeah.
But you know, never mind. There's a delay here. I was just checking it out.
Oh, yeah.
I like what you guys, what you're doing, Steven, and
Oh, thank you.
I don't have a comment one way or another on tonight's show. It happened so long ago. A lot of things could have, the story could have changed over 100 years, several
Absolutely.
times. It'd be mere speculation. Something was flying, could have been fireworks, but like you say, there's nothing that blew that much back then. Anyways, I actually only had the number up there for a second, so I really wanted to just get it in my phone.
Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah, and please, I should mention this to everybody. That phone forwards, so, like, please only call when the show is live streaming, because so far I've gotten like 100, well, not 100, but I've gotten like 10 calls. Like, I guess people are watching the replay, so I have to put something up to like go, hey, don't call when it's not up, But yeah, and
Yeah, I get it.
I should tell everybody that, Jeff, you were
Do you
in.
have anything you want to ask me?
Yeah, I wanted to mention to my listeners, because I want to have you on as a guest, because you were a victim of the Paradise fires. And there's a lot of conspiracies and stuff going on with that. And I know you were very strongly against David Wilcock telling his BS fairy tales about Paradise being destroyed by an energy weapon. And people are trying to profit from all the misery in that town. And that's terrible. And I'm sorry that happened to you.
You don't know the half of it. The lawsuit is so rigged. I have been very, very involved in that. I've been interviewed by KQED, Bloomberg Business Insider.
And I know you were talking to Erin Brockovich, right? Because she's involved in that case.
Oh, and I've had it out with Erin Brockovich on the phone about 4 times now. We're totally getting screwed in the lawsuit. It's a land grab. It wasn't dues or due charge. I mean, the winds were 80 miles an hour that morning, hot and dry forever. A cigarette would have started that fire. I hear Deborah Tavares talking about the super soldiers that jump out of airplanes and don't use parachutes and land, and they surrounded the town and lit it on fire. That's all pure garbage. She even went on Cassie's show and said that she went up there, and the date that she said she went up there was the first day they let any of us in, and there's only 3 ways to get up there, and you had to go through a security checkpoint. You had to give them your ID. You had to prove where you were going, and not all of the areas in the town were even opened up. You could only go to your place. You had to wear a hazmat suit. Well, Deborah Tavares claimed she went up there with somebody. They didn't let her in. She didn't go up there, and she says she went to a school and vandalized an electrical box and saw a smart meter in there that was exploding but failed to explode. But this is all.
Sure, yeah, all these conspiracy theories.
David Wilcock goes on about the redwood trees and all that. Redwood trees don't even grow in Paradise. They're out on the coast. But there are several videos on YouTube that have drone footage and even people in airplanes that fly over thousands of homes.
Sure.
Where all you can see is a pad. You will not see elevator shaft number 1
on those pads. There was another outfit that tried to exploit the fire, like Wilcox, and the Butte County District Attorney's Office filed criminal charges against them. They were trying to sell pillows or something. But, you know, we're a close-knit community, and they know about Wilcox.
Sure.
They weren't sure how he was exploiting it, because they never really plugged into any of
yeah, but if he has
Edge of Wonder live streams and saw the donations flowing in. But
if he's telling fake
about
stories, if he's telling fake stories about this Paradise Fire, then he's profiting from the misery of all those people, and he's taking super chat donations for lying about, you know, some weird, there was aliens in that town and the government blew it up with an energy weapon. That's what caused the fire. He's so full of it, and he's taking donations.
Exactly. And it's sickening and it's cold-hearted. He didn't even know Paradise existed until that fire. Hell, a bunch of people did. It's a small town. It's a retirement community.
Sure.
These are mostly old people. A lot of them are still homeless. It is a land grab. I will admit that. Every bit of this case is fixed. I have nothing nice to say about Erin Brockovich. She was hired. She actually works for PG&E. And if you look at her history, and you go to Hinckley, Nevada,
Sure.
all of those former clients that were represented by the law firm she was working for, they're all still in there.
Yeah, I heard that.
Some of them have, every single one of them. What they do is they look at these disasters, and in this case, this was perfect for Erin Brockovich, because I signed on to it with her too, thinking who better do you want to have than to see PG&E than Erin Brockovich. Well, she got this big court lawyer, who's her boss that hired her. They rounded up 18,000 clients. They weren't even licensed to practice law in this state. And then they hired a local attorney who lost his house in a fire. They ushered us all through there. They did absolutely nothing to help us in our lawsuit. And this attorney and Erin Brockovich received a $100 million loan from PG&E while they were allegedly representing us. There's so many ugly.
Yeah, listen. Why don't we save it for a whole show? Because I could do a whole show on all the Paradise conspiracies, and you'd be the perfect guest.
Fine, but they're not happy about David Wilcox. If there was a way I could prove exactly how much money he's making and show them, they will file charges with the district attorney's office. There's been 3 now. The big one is today. PG&E pled guilty to 85 counts of manslaughter and recklessly starting a fire.
Yeah, I saw that. That's crazy.
They're getting fined $4.8 million. Guess where that money's coming from that they've agreed to pay? It comes out of our lawsuit money.
Yeah.
That's what Erin Brockovich and this other lawyer were doing for PG&E.
Yeah, it's terrible.
So we could do another show on that. But if like I said, I'll repeat it. If I could prove how much money David Wilcox is pulling in, spewing this garbage, the district attorney will file a criminal complaint against him.
Wow. Well, I'd be happy to help you with that. Let's keep in touch.
Yeah, great. Yeah, you have my number there, I guess.
Yes, I do.
And you know how to contact me anyway. You can contact me through Dan. Dan and I talk almost every day.
Okay, awesome.
I don't talk to Kevin Moore anymore other than emails. He sent me one this morning. I am totally
there's a lot of that going around.
I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
But he sent me a nice email this morning. Other than that, okay. I'll let someone else get on here.
Okay, great. Nice talking to you, Jeff. You have a good evening. Thanks for calling Truthseekers.
You take care.
All right,
Bye.
bye-bye. All right, so Jeff, it's terrible. He had a terrible experience. He lost his his home was burned. He lost everything that he owned. And then we have these clowns coming along, like David Wilcock, telling fairy tales about aliens and government energy weapons. So, of course, him and the residents of Paradise are not happy with one Mr. David Wilcock. And Mr. Wilcock, if you're watching, and I'm sure one of your, idiot friends will send this to you, I don't know if you could or would or will be criminally prosecuted, but the Paradise residents want you to be for profiting from their misery. And honestly, I think you should be. But let's get back to the live stream, or let's get back to the live chat. And actually, I had one more sort of video that I thought we could play, which is it's done by let me see, the Texas Bucket List, which I thought was great because it's a YouTube channel dedicated to all the things you should do in Texas before you kick the bucket. And he visits all these crazy sites, and he just tells a great story. So I thought we could look at what's going on lately in modern times. This is pretty recent video. And again, I'm going to say fair use because we're discussing this, and this is a transformative work. But we're going to try and take a look at what's going on in that alien graveyard lately and hear from, I believe it's the town historian or mayor is in this video who gets interviewed. So let's see if we can't find that. Here we go. Oh, there we go. Can somebody in live chat tell me, did it kick or are we still here? The browser actually crashed. Let me take a look just to make sure that we're still broadcasting. Sorry about that, folks. I don't know why that happened. I've never seen a browser crash like that in the middle of a broadcast before. So just bear with me for 1 second, folks, while I verify that we're still up and running here. And then I'll try to get the share screen going again. Yeah, I guess. It's the Cabal. Super V Funcat says it's the Cabal. Yes, it absolutely is the Cabal. Let me knock that out. We'll go back. Well, it's good to know if the browser crashes that I can still. Now I have to go to Gmail to get my. Just stand by, guys. I gotta get into Gmail to get the link here. Open lines, fighting for justice. Oh, here we go. Texas Bucket List. Okay. Okay, now we're going to get this Texas Bucket List.
Parts. Or would you? Aurora, Texas. A small community north of Fort Worth may be named for the glimmering light show seen in the sky But it's something that fell from the wild blue yonder that's legendary in this town.
Well, you guys have interesting history here.
We do have with that, yes.
Dan McIntyre is the town's historic preservation officer. An interesting title for a place that's only got about 1,200 people, but it used to be much bigger.
We used to have a population, I understand, over 5,000 here, and there was some problems. They had an epidemic that went through and kind of wiped a lot of the population out. Also, the railroad bypassed the town. There's a pamphlet out called The Town That Almost Was.
During the continuous downtrodden times of the late 1800s, something out of this world is said to have happened here.
Well, there's a rumor about the spaceship that hit one of the windmills.
File this one under strange and unusual, because this story is just getting started.
As I understand it, the spaceship hits Judge Proctor's windmill out there and crashes. They took the alien's body and they buried him at the cemetery and gave him a Christian burial. Several of the people in the area, they went out and looked at the crash scene. I understand they threw parts of the spacecraft down in the well. Other people just took, and carried off what they could of it, which people would do, I would suspect.
The alleged crash even made the Dallas Morning News on April 19, 1897. Submitted to the paper by Aurora resident S.E. Hayden, a local cotton buyer, the alien news wasn't front page by any means, but it did make page 5. While skepticism was high back in the day, some still believe that something happened here. All you have to do is go to the cemetery, where the alien is said to have been buried.
Well, I'm sure you guys get some interesting characters visiting town.
Of course.
You think it's an alien over there? Yeah.
A large stone serves as the marker to the foreign body that has apparently been moved to keep curious kleptos from digging up whatever could be resting in the Aurora Cemetery.
And this is my understanding, that he was moved and buried elsewhere so that, people couldn't go around digging him up. And it would make sense to a degree. The people that did that are all dead. I don't know if they passed it on to anybody else, but I'm not aware of anybody that knows actually the actual burial site. But, again, that going back to that good old Texas law, you got to get permission of the next of kin to dig them up anyway. So
Unless you're the people redigging him somewhere.
Unless you're the people that's going to move him.
Despite being a far-out story with no real physical proof, people still stop by to pay their respects to Ned, the resident out-of-this-world alien corpse that may or may not be buried here.
Hello?
You came all this way, you're out in the middle of nowhere, you gotta at least venture another 50 yards to see the alien.
Ricky Lee and family happened to be saying goodbye to a lost loved one from this earth when they decided to see what the cosmic commotion was all about.
Yeah, I think there's an alien down there.
It's just part of our background to come up here, and when we have a funeral, a family funeral, we come and pay our respects to the alien also. So
How fun is it to show up at a cemetery after someone just gets out of a funeral and have them over here laughing and smiling not even 5 minutes after that?
I thought it was very interesting, and it lent a lot. I think they enjoyed it a lot. I think it probably lessened their pain. That's what I've seen anyway. And for me, I thought it was nice. Very few funerals can say that.
So the story of an alien ship that crashed in the windmill of one Judge Proctor lives on, perhaps for light years, but it does bring a smile to some when they need it most, and keeps that tingling question of, are we alone, hovering in our heads.
I like to think there's other life out there. I not so sure the people of Aurora back in the 1800s were so sure about what they saw, but I'd like to think it's true. It'd be awesome.
It's the essence of the question, are we alone out there?
We're not alone. We know that. We know we're not alone, but what's there? Who's there? That's the question. That's the big question right there, isn't it?
It's just because it's a good story, a good old hometown story. So good to come follow a trail.
I am a strong believer in the dear Lord is powerful enough that if he wanted to create another universe and other people, he could have done it. He didn't have to tell us about it. Now, that's what I believe strongly.
Do I believe? Might as well. All for the fun of it.
There's going to be a point in time when you guys are digging a grave and you're going to come across an unmarked grave. Do you venture opening it?
I don't expect to open anything.
I'm gonna have to ask you to look right here.
Okay, so that's sort of to see. I wanted to show that just to show sort of the cultural significance and how people, yeah, like this woman in the video said, she followed the trail to get to that alien graveyard and to see where that alien just might be buried. That is just a great part of the story. So we're gonna go back to the live chat and go. Anybody can, you know, have comments or questions. The sort of windmill is embedded firmly in the ground, and something huge and heavy would knock it over. It had to be a big thing to knock it over. Yeah, I agree with you, Reemsey. Whatever knocked over that windmill, it had to be really a big thing to knock over the windmill. Yeah, and I was gonna do another share screen to put the phone number back up in case anybody else wanted to call. Or actually, wait, I don't have to share screen that, but this is gonna. Let's go to. I have just an overlay here, and my mic will be muted, so I'm just going to put the number back up. If anybody wants to call, you can call in. If you have any questions or comments about this case or any other case or anything you really want to talk about in the paranormal conspiracy land realm, we're here to do that. 1 second. So lines are open. You can call now. The phone number is 267-482-0612. Again, that's 267-482-0612. Somebody commented on my antique phones. I have a thing for antique phones. I try to get, you know, it's funny to see young people like try to work one of these phones before their time, I suppose. So if anybody wants to call in live, you can do that. And somebody already copied and pasted the number into the live chat. We're going to go back to comments. If my mouse wants to cooperate with me, I really have to work on my setup here because sometimes it's just, I can't find the mouse cursor. There it is. There we go. There we go. I'm back to the live chat. And yeah, Reemsey. This is the call-in line. If anybody would like to call in, Brandon Young mentioned calling in. We'd be happy to have you, Brandon, and put a voice to your name. I've seen you in so many different live chats. Don't think we've ever talked. And we have another comment here from Reemsey. A storm certainly couldn't knock one of those over. Those things are sturdy and will stand around forever unless someone takes it down. I've seen these big commercial, even the old school, like really old windmills on a farm. I don't know what they use them for. I guess to generate power. I don't know. Yeah, I agree with Reemsey. A storm is not knocking that thing down. And Super V Funcat says, I'm surprised there's not more high strangeness in the town reported. Yeah, maybe that was really all that happened there of paranormal note. And you mentioned calling my cell phone whenever you want. Super V, you can call me whenever you want. I don't know about everybody else, but you can call me whenever you want. Reemsey says, Brandon is kind and super smart. And Super V, Mercury goes into retrograde tomorrow. You know what, Super V? I try to not pay attention to this Mercury in retrograde stuff. I really do. But then stuff happens. Every time that Mercury, I hate it. Every time that thing happens, it seems like weird things happen, and never good things. It's always like family drama hits, or like the car blew up, or something weird like that always happens to me. So I am not good to see. I'm not glad to see Mercury in retrograde. But I'm not really a believer in astrology, so I don't know how that works. But I'm telling you, I've had weird things happen to me when that stuff goes on. And out of mind. Yeah, maybe you were touchy because of Mercury in retrograde. I don't know. Yeah, and before I forget, I want to thank everybody who has been sharing, and retweeting the link to our show here. I made the decision to start a brand new YouTube channel, which in hindsight was probably not the best idea. And I did that because my old YouTube channel is just kind of a dump for anything creative I did. I put music on there. There's some old magic videos of me on there. There's all the Midnight Hour shows, and that channel is still there if you want to listen to any of the old Midnight Hour shows. They're old shows now. That sounds weird to say that. And I have to say, everything that I didn't like about doing a radio show, I sort of fixed with this new show. I loved radio, and honestly, like my mom used to joke, and my dad especially would joke, that I had a great face for radio. So I enjoyed being on the radio, though, and I really enjoyed just being a voice in the wind. I thought that was cool and more mysterious. But some of the things I did not like, I didn't like the lack of interactivity. The show was pre-recorded. Now, the folks from the Fringe FM sort of helped me to learn how I could do it live, but it was very, very difficult. And the way the technology is going with the streaming software, everything that I want to do, I'm now able to do. I can listen to live callers can call in, and I always wanted to do that. We can have people in the chat with all of their comments and things like that. And I can have any guest. So if anybody would like to come on screen and be a guest, if you have a webcam and a microphone, and please wear a pair of headphones. Otherwise, there's a lot of looping and echoing. But I can just send you a link if you put an email in the chat, and you can come. And we have Paranormal Hood Jiggy is here. I'm hoping that I can get Jiggy. Jiggy, you got to come and be a guest, because I want to start covering some of the ghost hunting stuff. And I know you've done a lot of that, and real field investigations. And coming up, we have a bunch of different shows. One is on the legendary suicide forest in Japan. That is a crazy story. And I found out by chance that, of all people, he's got his hand in everything paranormal. I don't know how he does it, but Jason Quitt has been to the suicide forest in Japan. And when he heard I was doing a show, he sent me all these pictures, and we're going to have him come on. Maybe not for the full show, but at least to tell his story of when he visited the Japanese suicide forest. I don't know the name of it offhand. It's a Japanese name, but there's a forest in Japan where thousands of people have gone into that forest and killed themselves. It's a crazy, crazy story. We're going to be covering that, and we have Rachel Hoffman from Paranormal Expeditions is going to be on our show coming up. And we're also going to be doing a show on the Cash Landrum incident. And we have a guest for that will be coming up as well. We're going to have Dane Hogan also. One second, let me get to my Twitter messages. Of course, Twitter messages are not going to work for me now, right? Something went wrong. Let me get to my profile, and I'll be able to should be able to find that. But we have a lot of upcoming guests. We're going to be doing some stuff on ghost hunting. We're going to be covering the Japanese suicide forest. I was going to do the Japanese suicide forest tonight, but since Jason Quitt was just on the show, I figured we'll do a few shows before we do that one. And We're going to be doing a show on ghost hunting and EVPs. We've got a lot of upcoming things. I've got a huge folder of subjects, and I just need the time to get to them. I keep saying I want to try to do more than one show a week. Ideally, I'd love to do 3 or 4, but time is short, kids and COVID, and I'm also busily trying to find a way to earn a living here. This quarantine and everything has been absolutely devastating financially. It's like every marketable skill that I have, I can't really do. My business, most of my computer business was going into people's homes and fixing their computers, on-site service. Nobody wants me in their house. And what I also did for a long time, if I needed extra money, I would Uber. But my wife is very nervous about me doing that. Anybody could cough on me, sitting in my back seat, and I could bring it home. So really, I've done nothing for 77 or 80 days now and had very, very little income. So I'm trying to put together some things to sell. I used to sell online and do some online marketing. It's rough out there. So, I also thought I wanted to make it a point. We're not going to have any commercials, or I'm not going to be hawking things, or like, you can support me on Patreon. Just search by my name, Stephen Cambion. And we're going to be bringing back this thing like Backstage Pass. So basically, all the projects that I work on, whether it's music or I've been writing a lot of stuff for an eventual book, and I'm recording new music. I have some pieces of a documentary on paranormal subjects as well. Basically, the way that my Patreon works is I'm too lazy to do specific things just for the Patreon people. Well, actually, sometimes I do. I have like an audio journal. We're going to bring that back. I'm going to do the first one this month. And the audio journal is just like, hey, here's some crazy things that I'm working on, or upcoming things, sort of a sneak preview. And so if you're in the Patreon, you get the audio journal, and you get everything first. In other words, if I finish a song, the Patreon people get it instantly the day that it's finished. And it might not be an album that's for sale or anything like that, or publicly available for another year, but that's what the Backstage Pass on Patreon gives you. It just gives you the Backstage Pass, and you get to see everything before the general public does. And we're going to be doing some Truthseekers special reports. And I'm even thinking I may do, depending on how things go at the cabin, I may bring back the Midnight Hour show and just do one of those shows a month. That's also would go to the Patreon people for a few weeks before it get uploaded anywhere. So you just get things in advance, and I don't have any tiers or anything like that. All I have is $1 a month. And I would also just like to mention thank you to all the Patreon supporters, because everything that you see here, these weird lights, the backdrop, the webcam, and the microphone were all purchased from Patreon money. I could say a lot about some people that are getting hundreds of dollars thrown at them in every super chat, thousands of dollars in some cases. Honestly, I just took the $30 or $40, whatever it is a month, from the Patreon and set it aside. And then while I was ending my radio show run, I was slowly like buying the backdrop, buying some lights, buying a better microphone, buying a webcam, and most of the other stuff here I had. But I really appreciate the Patreon people, because ask anybody who's married, like the fact that I could tell my wife, like, I'm going to start this new show, but all the stuff that I need for it is covered by the show listeners and the Patreon supporters. That's a great thing, because then my wife has no, okay, you have the money from, these supporters of yours. Great, go buy all that stuff, do your new show. Good luck. And it wasn't like a financial drain on my family, especially right now. Things are rough. If not for my wife, like she has a good corporate job, and, so I'm trying to do other things right now. I'm going to be really focusing on firewood this year. That's one of the ways I'm contributing, because our gas bill here in this huge house is crazy. And last year we got out of about half of it. I didn't have time to get enough firewood. This year I'm really focused, I feel like a lemming, like chop, cut, stack, but these are the things that you got to do in today's modern times as a family, just to get through things. If we could save, we might save 4,000 or 5,000, at least 3 or 4 on this winter's heating bill if I keep up with the firewood. So I'm trying to do that, take care of my children, And this is a great outlet for me. I want to thank each and every one of you guys for coming here. Paycheck Protection Program. Beverly asked, did you apply for the Paycheck Protection Program? You can if you're a sole proprietor of a business to pay yourself. You know, I didn't do that, and my wife is actually an accountant. She said I didn't qualify, but I'm going to have her check again because you're like the third person that told me that I could get that. And Brandon Young says, women hate YouTube. You know what's funny, Brandon, is like mutual friends of ours are commenting on my show on Facebook or something, and like I don't know that she's even watched it or knows anything that I'm doing. She never really listened to my radio show because she's just, she's not into this kind of esoteric conspiracy land, aliens. You know, she thinks I'm a little nutty. So, and she probably thinks all of you are a little nutty. She's just not into this stuff. So I've never been one to push things that I was working on down her throat. Like I learned with music too. Like there was a time when I'd write a song and I'd go, here, listen to this new song. Like she gets sick, she gets burned out of that because I'm constantly making something and I don't want to jam it down her throat. I don't think she hates YouTube, but Brandon Young, wood stove. Yes, I have a wood stove insert. I have wood stoves at my cabin, but at my big house in the suburbs of Philadelphia, we have like I think it's a 3,500, maybe 3,800 square foot house. It's huge, big 5-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 3-bath. There's a huge basement. This place is huge and they heat this thing. So the first year we had a fireplace, which was funny because my entire life I wanted a real fireplace, never had one. I finally got one, and I had already had wood stoves at the cabin and was so impressed with the tiny little wood stove and how much heat they put out. So when I saw this huge stone fireplace here before we bought this place, I was like, that's the house. It's got this huge fireplace. You can't heat anything with a fireplace. I would get that thing blaring and be blasting wood into this thing, and it would be blaring, and you could feel it in the basement where the fireplace is, but the rest of the house was cold and the heat didn't travel. We put a wood stove insert with a blower on it in that fireplace, and now that can heat the entire house. I'm a big fan of wood stoves and wood stove inserts. And Beverly McCarthy, welcome to Beverly. I have not seen you here before. Welcome to Truthseekers. I hope you will like, comment, and subscribe. She says, I may be wrong. You may need one employee. Call your bank to be sure, though. Well, I am a sole proprietor, and no, I don't have any employees. So, and Super V Fun Cat, you can hire me as an employee and you're qualified. Pay me in a retro phone. That's a deal, Super V. You could be like the Truthseekers operator, taking the phone calls. Reem C says, fireplaces are awesome. I use mine until the hot weather comes. I love fireplaces. I have to say, I like the fireplace for the ambiance. If you just want to sit in front of that fire, it's very nice. It's relaxing. You just sit there in front of the fire. But I really need heat also. And with my cabin, there is hundreds and hundreds of acres. It's surrounded by state forests. I'm friendly with all of the state game wardens, whatever those guys are, the park rangers. I don't know what those guys are. I'm very friendly with all of them, and I can go into the state game lands and state forests and take any wood I want as long as it's already down or it's a standing dead tree. I'm allowed to take those down and take them out. So I have access to all the free firewood that I want or can handle or have time for. You just some assembly required. So I like the fireplace. I like the wood stove better because it heats my entire huge house. And no gas bill. Wouldn't that be a great thing? Paranormal Jiggy. So many people are comfortable with the way of doing things since the pandemic. Yeah, it's a whole new world out there. The bar around the cabin, it's called the Dutchman. And I love this bar because it reminds me of like an old school Irish Philly bar. And it's kind of like the Cheers bar. It's one big square. But I stopped in there because they had just opened, and I went to say hello to some of my friends that work there, and it was surreal and weird. They have bar stools, and then they have plastic between each of the bar stools. So it just seemed like bizarre. This whole thing seems bizarre right now. Collie Armstrong is here. Shout out to Collie, who says, "Hey, Steven, how you doing, Collie? It's good to see you here." And Reemsey says, "I'm probably going to stay retired now because I'm having to take care of my 90-year-old dad more and more these days. I go help him every day now." Reemsey, that is a good thing to do. I know something about that because I'm pretty much the full-time caretaker of my autistic son who's nonverbal, so that's very challenging. And then I also, after my father died, I took care of my mother for like 25 years. She came to live with us, and that was very difficult. And it's not fun taking care of an elder, but it's the right thing and the good thing to do. So God bless you for doing that, and I'll pray for your dad. Oh, Paranormal Jiggy is asking me, have I ever been on a paranormal investigation, Stephen? No, Jiggy, but I have a friend who had all the ghost hunter gear, like the magnetometers and all this stuff. And my wife and I, in our first house, we lived across the street from a graveyard, which was kind of bizarre, but I loved it because I always joked that the neighbors were very quiet. So we lived right across the street from a graveyard, and we heard knocking and weird stuff. And my wife both of us swore that we saw like shadows and things at night, weird stuff in the house. So one of my friends who's into this ghost hunting thing, and I guess he's a ghost hunter, he came over with all the stuff, and he found very high levels of magnetic fields in the house, and said that could be causing it because magnetic fields could, alter your brain chemistry or cause hallucinations. But I've never been on an actual field investigation other than, Jiggy, my thing has always been UFOs. So like I went to Kecksburg and saw the Kecksburg crash site and a few other things like that. I agree with Jiggy, who's talking to Reams. He says, "May you stay blessed. You've got a good heart." Absolutely, Reemsy. That's an awesome thing that you do, take care of your dad. And out of mind, all the plastic is stupid. The air circulation cancels it all out. Just so darn dumb. I'm not sure what. Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. Oh, she's talking about the bar that I went to where they had plastic between the bar stools. Like, I mean, I guess that's going to protect against you if somebody's sitting next to you and they cough or they sneeze because it'll go on the side of the plastic. But I would think some of that particulate would make its way in the air, and it's just going to be in there. I'm immunocompromised somewhat, and just honestly, I'm not very healthy. And so when this started happening, I was very worried. Not just about myself, but then I also have a son my autistic son he's got bad asthma. And so we have two people in our household that are at high risk, really. And so I've been incredibly careful. I have hand sanitizer and gloves in my car, and I'm always using the hand sanitizer in my car. Like I go to get gas and I'm like, I got to get a glove to touch the touchpad. It's made me a little bit crazy because I was already a little germ phobic already, but it's just giving me like really bad anxiety. Paranormal Jiggy. I tried to become an investigator, MUFON. They never got back to me, and we have tons of equipment for investigating. Yeah, and you're not too far, so I would love to do some of that with you, Jiggy. If I can drive there, especially, even if it's like an 8-hour drive, I'd be interested in doing that kind of stuff. And I don't think you're missing anything in MUFON, because I kind of think MUFON is a joke. Like you give them $100 and they give you a certificate that says you're a UFO field investigator. And most people get the certificate and they never really do anything with it, but they think there's something important now. Like I always laugh when somebody signs their name and you see like MUFON field investigator. Like, yeah, anybody with $100 can be that too. You just give them $100 and you take like an open book test or something. I don't know. I'm not a fan of MUFON really. Oh, Paranormal Jiggy says, you're welcome anytime. That is good to know. And Super V Funcat says, keep trying, Jiggy. They are always lagging on getting back. You have to pass a test. Yeah, and I don't want to be too critical, Super V, but I think the test goes something like, do you got your $100? Put it right here. Congratulations, you're a field investigator. I don't know if it's 100, it's something like that. And, I don't know, but I have a problem with like all this money stuff. Like there's a lot of money being funneled into MUFON, and there's famous reports of MUFON investigators where the guy got metal and he was like, we have to get this analyzed, and they got all this money and they didn't do anything about some metal that they found at a purported UFO, dropped some material, and this MUFON investigator picked it up, went to the higher ups and said, this is great, I've got this material, we have to get it analyzed. Oh, we don't have money for that. They've got tens of thousands of dollars in their national and regional budgets, I guess. I don't know why they wouldn't follow up on something like that if they're really out to get the truth. That turned me off, and some other stuff. We had John Ventry as a previous guest on the Midnight Hour show, and he's like the regional director in my state in Pennsylvania. And, hey, John, I really believe he was a good guy. Maybe he misspoke, but I don't think he did. And he said some really racist stuff. And then he didn't apologize, and MUFON didn't fire him or tell him he had to resign, and that didn't sit real well with me. Oh, Super V. Yes, I paid my dues for years, and it was pointless. I stopped this year. Super V. I gave up on them. We do our own stuff. I was a paid member for years and wanted to seriously investigate claims they received about UFOs in the New England area around me. Yeah, that's why a lot of people get involved with them. I think there are some independent groups of investigators that you could join that don't want any money, that will help you and teach you how to interview people, take samples, document cases. And I think those may be a little more worthwhile. So back to the phone, if anybody does want to call in the live chat, or if anybody wants to call in on our live call-in number, the phone number is in the live chat, and you can do that. Yeah, and so, Jiggy, I saw that drama with Zen, dude, I think he's melting down. And yes, today he was still streaming. And you're evil, I think, Jiggy. So just wanted to let you know that you're evil. In case you didn't know that you're evil, Jiggy. You're evil, and you're calling him a racist, and he's not a racist. And I hope anybody will forgive me if you're offended by such things, but it's been a very long day. So yes, I'm going to drink on camera. I'm glad that you guys could all be here tonight. And I wanted to mention, I'm trying to find stories like tonight's story, which is kind of an out there story that's been out in the public, but isn't really covered, isn't really talked about at UFO conferences much. Maybe it's an old story, but it's still, a good story. I just think it's best for this new show to cast sort of a wider net and not concentrate so much on UFOs anymore, especially because I think that's like the UFOs is just a rabbit hole that you never get to the bottom of. Never. All the stories that I've looked into, I've never gotten to the bottom of them. Never found any solid actual proof that it's aliens. I mean, sure, people see lights in the sky. I am unconvinced. But I'd love to believe, I have that poster. I just saw Ryan from The Secret Teachings putting up a new studio, and he has the same poster that I do. We all have it. It's the, like the X-Files poster with this flying saucer, and it says, I want to believe. That's where I'm at. And I thought I'm going to do try to do a share screen here and show just a few more things. Let's see if we can get into these downloads here. Just I have to come up with a better system because right now I am transferring stuff from the like my main computer and just using a laptop for the stream. And that is not always the best way to go about it. Okay, well, I can share. I just wanted to show another picture of this graveyard. Application window. And here we have the actual graveyard in Aurora, Texas, the entrance of it where the alien body is purported to be buried. But I sort of think I agree with William Pullen. Until real evidence is available, I think this may just be a Texas tall tale, but I would love to believe it was true. And like I said, if they'll let me dig, I sent them a letter. I'm not very hopeful that they're going to give me permission to go digging up bodies. But if they do, I will go there with a shovel. So that's my promise to the people of Aurora, Texas, and the world. If you really want the proof that this is a true story, then by all means, go and give me permission. I believe there's been 5 or 6 different people who have asked for the right to exhume that gravesite or to, well, they did give UFO hunters permission to use ground penetrating radar, but that just tells you that there's something under the ground. That really does not tell you that it's an alien body. I think, though, that the people of Aurora may have a vested interest in keeping the story going and not letting people prove or disprove it as, actually something that really did happen. But you never know. I'm hopeful that someday maybe the truth of this thing will be known. And I just wanted to show one other thing. The cultural impact of this thing. There has been numerous documentaries, books, and also there was actually, this was a Hollywood movie, The Aurora Encounter. I've never seen this, and I kind of did a quick search for it. It's not on Netflix, so if anybody knows where I can find a copy of that movie, I'd be interested in seeing it because I'd like to see just how, it's a quick story, so I'm not sure how they made a 2-hour movie about it, but I'd love to see that movie. It sounds like a fun movie if you're into this kind of stuff. So what do you guys think? True story? The alien sacrificed his life to save the town economy. Yeah, Super V, you might be right. That might be exactly what happened. And Out of Mind says, money. And Reemsey, I still think it is real. Reemsey, I would love to believe it would be real. And Paranormal Jiggy says, you can investigate UFO phenomena, but you need great equipment and be able to respond quickly. Jesus. I think I should go get a pillow and sit higher. Yeah, I think you're right. And Jiggy no, he said I got a big heart. And he's a teddy bear. He doesn't know if he loves me or hates me. I don't think he's in love with you, Jiggy, from the sounds of things. But, I kind of support you guys. I joked about him when he went off. By the way, I should say, all you leeches better donate to my Patreon. You're all here for free. I'm not getting any money from you leeches. No, he, sort of had this meltdown and he went off like telling people they better donate right now. Stop complaining and donate. And I kind of lost all respect for him because, listen, we all have bad days. And you know what? He could have taken that stream down, edited that out, and put it back, or he could have just apologized, and I would have been fine. But I don't think it's a good idea to go yelling at people, donate, you leeches, So I did, actually, he's responsible for my Patreon jumping up from like $11 to like $50, because I started making it a joke on my radio show, like, you leeches all better donate. You're all getting this content for free. I'm not getting any money. You're all a bunch of leeches. And it really was a joke. I was joking about him doing that. But people started donating, which was funny, right? More comments. Yeah, so, I guess, friends, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. And we're gonna wrap things up here. And I'm happy to say that I finally remembered to do a bumper for the end of the show. It's so funny. This is episode 3 of our show, and I forgot to do it for the first show. And then I got to the end of the show and I was like, oops, what do I do now? Okay, good night. And I didn't have a bumper to play. And then the next one, I forgot again. So I played like a "We'll be right back" bumper. But this time, I have actually made a "Thanks for joining us" bumper. So I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. I think we're going to do another show this week. And that should be either tomorrow night or Thursday, but later Thursday, because I don't want to step on Jiggy's normal stream time, or anybody's really, if I can avoid it. So I guess I would say thanks each and every one of you for joining me. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And, maybe even just email the channel to a friend of yours who may like this kind of stuff. That would be the best way to help me right now. I'll start calling everybody leeches and begging for money sometime in the next show, a couple of shows, and I'm even going to have commercials that will beg for money. So I'm upping my hand in my hat. Please donate game. So, friends, thanks each and every one of you for joining me. Until next time, folks, my name is Stephen Cambion, reminding you that sometimes, yes, sometimes, the truth may just be hidden in plain sight. Good night, folks.
Truthseekers is a viewer-supported show. Wonderful people like you who enjoy this show send pledges in the form of super chats, super stickers, super thanks, PayPal, or Cash App. Instructions for how to help are in the description. You can also join our Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month, you can get extra content. Patreon supporters get a backstage pass, early access to all our production videos before they are distributed publicly, Stephen Campion's music, private writings, a monthly show journal, and more. You can also become a YouTube channel member for $5 a month. A YouTube membership includes all of the Patreon benefits, plus a special members badge, priority reply to video comments, and the live chat, plus a monthly members only video. We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, for supporting Truth Seekers. Thank you for your generosity and support. Truthseekers is a viewer-supported show. Now there's a great way to support these broadcasts and show your support. Please be sure and check out our merchandise store. Links to our 2 merchandise online stores are in the links to this video or podcast. The Amazon storefront ships super quickly in the United States, Great Britain, and in many more places. Amazon may not ship to your country or location. If that's the case, hit our second merchandise link in the description and visit our Redbubble storefront. Merchandise from our Redbubble storefront ships worldwide, but may take longer than Amazon. We've got a great deal of super high quality merchandise for you to choose from, including t-shirts, phone cases, sweatshirts, and even pillows. The feedback from our products have been overwhelmingly great. Quality products and fast shipping. People all over the world are buying some merchandise and showing their support of the show. Praise the cash! Praise the cash! Praise the cash! We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, who are buying some merchandise and helping us to continue this journey. Thanks for being here. This is Truth Seekers with your host, Stephen Campion. Please rate, like, and comment on our videos or podcasts. If you are listening to an audio podcast, please rate us 5 stars to help us rise in the search rankings. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to an audio podcast, we love and appreciate you listeners, but you are missing the live tapings. All our shows are recorded live with video feed. We'd love you to come be a part of our live broadcasts and tapings for the podcast. Head on over to YouTube, click the search tool, the little magnifying glass, put Truth Seekers, one word in the search bar, and hit enter. You'll see a strange and mysterious guy with sunglasses. That means you found the channel. Go there, smash the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to receive up-to-date info on our YouTube channel. We welcome you to be a part of our live taping and our chat group during the live broadcasts. Seek the truth. Speak the truth. This is Truth Seekers. Truth Seekers. Truth Seekers.